Jim and I coming to you, Jim and I.
Jim and I.
Jim and I coming to you live this morning. Brett is in Austin, so it's just us two. So we're kind of mixing it up because he's not here. So we get to do what we want. So hope you had a great weekend. Hope you're ready for a new week. So let's start with some market numbers and let's talk on that. And then we've got a few talking points this morning, and hope you leave with some value to start your week. So Jim, start us off. What you got?
All right. So we got our local numbers the last 7 days. We started seeing our active inventory going down, but the biggest thing that caught my eye was our active option went down also. So we went down in sales, but we didn't gain anything in the new listings. So I think it kind of reads about even there.
Right. Yeah. And I think we're seeing that as we continue our conversation. We'll see how this is showing up and how we can use it in the future too. So what's Dallas?
Yep. Dallas stayed the same and active option went up. We click on over to Collin County.
Oh, big week.
Yep. Went up and contracts went up. So we saw a spike in new listings and we saw a spike in demand. And so I think this is going to be kind of a common thing we're going to see right now, right? I think Rockwall's on this kind of funky off cycle right now where we've had these ups and downs, but it's starting to level off a little bit where we went down 85, 52, but look, it's each week, right?
Right.
And so averages average out, and we're going to have a really big week. We're going to have a really small week. The interesting thing is going to be able to watch these active option numbers right here and kind of gauge what the overall interest is in the local markets.
Right. I agree. And we were talking earlier, our office, and we'll talk more about this, but just our office alone, we definitely have been focusing on taking listings because we had a really great listing taking month in March. So just so you guys are aware, it was 9th best on record. So you're definitely doing the activities to go find inventory in this market. So they're out there. We just got to go get it.
Got to get it.
Yeah.
All right. So I think right now we've been talking about a lot of just big headlines, and the news is really trying to capitalize in on what happened at the beginning of the 2000s, going into the Great Recession.
So pause.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of agents that have not experienced, because COVID, almost everybody got their licensing during COVID, right?
Right. Yeah.
Not really, but there was a lot of interest in real estate during that time because everybody was home. So they were able to try new things. So what happened? Tell me a little bit about that, because there definitely we definitely have some agents that, I don't know if some of them were even born. So we
Yeah. So whenever I got into real estate, it was, I remember walking into the office the first day and I had a guy look at me and say, "Why are you getting into real estate? Don't you know everybody's getting out?" I had no idea. I didn't watch the news. I was a stupid 20-something-year-old. And so but what you had were a lot of bad lending practices. I tell this to my agents all the time. I remember getting out of college and walking into a D.R. Horton neighborhood, and maybe I shouldn't say it, but anyways, walking into a home builder neighborhood and walking through the house. And I told the guy, because everybody just told me, yeah, you buy a house once you graduate. I was like, okay, cool. So I walked through the house and he tells me, let's get you pre-qualified. And I went, all right, here's the thing. I don't have a job. And he goes, oh, that's no problem.
That's fine.
Yeah, everybody gets a job. And I just sat there thinking to myself, I was like, I'm not comfortable with this. Like, there's no reason you should give me a house right now. But that was going on everywhere.
Right.
And it wasn't even if you didn't have a job, you could have a job, but I want to buy 5 more homes on top of that and have this ridiculous debt to income ratio.
That's right.
Right. And so once people started missing payments, because everybody just felt like the market was sustainable forever. Like, people just pay their mortgages. That's what always happens. Well, it always happens until it doesn't.
Right.
And it started not to happen. And so you had a ton of homes get foreclosed on, but it was all because of bad lending practices.
That's right. So hear that. back 2008, 2009, the reason for the crash that I'm sure you're reading on the headlines, are we in a bubble? Are we heading towards market crash like 2008, 2009? So we just want to discuss what the difference between the two is. Money was getting lent to people that had no business borrowing.
Yeah.
So when they weren't able to pay their mortgages, thus the foreclosures. So how is it different? How are we different now?
Well, I think it's just that right there. Better lending practices. We tightened that up really good. They did it several times throughout that period, but it was around like 2012 where we really started getting some good mortgage practices in that have now stuck.
They even tightened up over COVID.
Yeah.
They tightened up even more. So they raised the credit score requirement during COVID. So we had a lot of fallout during that time because the lenders are remembering success leaves clues, so does failure. They are remembering what happened. So we just want you aware that if you're hearing this, it's two completely different situations.
Yeah, better fundamentals. And so when it says fundamentals, we're looking at a lot of just law of supply and demand, right? And if you tell yourself, yeah, but law of supply and demand says if supply is low and demand's high, then prices go up, until there's a ceiling, right?
Correct. There always is.
Yeah, there is a unwritten ceiling. The market will straighten itself out, right? And that's what the ceiling is.
That's right.
The ceiling is the market saying that's enough. Like we can't go any higher. And so we're built upon fundamentals of supply and demand. We're not, there's other reports out there that talk about how the amount of secondary homes being bought are at an average, not low, but at an average, right? And so that's really big. That means you don't have a lot of people going out there and just buying up a bunch of property on speculation that, unless you're some of these iBuyers, right? And you're buying up homes, sitting on them for 4 or 5 months and then putting them back on the market. If you want to know where there's a danger zone, it can be there. It's a good program, iBuyers for the seller. But when you start buying on speculation in this market where things starting to tighten up, it can be bad news. So that if there's a place I'm worried about, it's that. But when they're only 1% of the market, I'm not worried.
That's right.
But otherwise, our buy and sell is on just like we said, supply and demand. And so that brings us to this article here of we just hit a level not seen since 2007. So once you get to reading down in this article, it starts talking about debt to income ratios. Right. That's where we're going to start having problems. And I think that's where we probably see just kind of a natural ceiling for right now until wages start going back up.
Right. And my opinion, that's what this is. No, not really. The reason I think the Fed stepped in to raise the interest rate is to create that ceiling.
Yeah.
It needed to happen. In the article, it says houses have gone up 32% over a course of 2 years. Yeah. That's insane. Like, just really think about that. And wages haven't. So in order for there to be some stabilization, there had to be some forcing in that. So if you're thinking, why were interest rates raised? That's a big reason why. And it will stabilize pricing because affordability, you're going to get people out of affordability. So keeping hiking is not going to be allowed because there's not going to be any buyers for it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And so, we can start to talk about, well, how do we navigate these waters? What do these waters look like? If we're going to have all these interest rate hikes and we have this problem with debt to income ratios, then how exactly are we supposed to sell, right? And these are important conversations because you're hearing it, your seller's hearing it. And so we have to be able to have these meaningful conversations with our sphere of influence, with people we don't even know, because we are the professionals. We should be instilling a sense of confidence in everybody else. And that's how we will continue to get business. If everybody else out there is just saying, no, the sky is falling, they're going to run.
That's right.
Right. So keep some of these key points in mind of talking about the fundamentals, about how we are starting to come to a ceiling. If you got somebody on the fence, now could be a really good time in the next 2 months of getting them into the market.
That's right.
And so before we look at some of these first quarter numbers, I want us to look at how this market is still a really good market and how it's about to get even better, I think, before it gets scary. But so if we look at, all right, they keep on talking about we're going to have up to 7 interest rate hikes. This is why the Fed has 7 meetings a year, right? And so we had our first major hike, 0.25%, on March 18th, 2 days after the Fed meeting. And so if we look at these numbers right here, we can start to kind of dictate what that's going to look like. I think the bigger thing is what the interest rates are doing in between these meetings.
That's right.
Because if you look at the beginning of the year, we were at 3.1%. And then before we even got to March 18th, we were sitting at 4%.
Mm-hmm.
We'd already gone up a full percentage point.
That's right.
And then we went up 0.25%, and now we're at APR at like 5.1, I think.
Yeah. Which is still not terrible, guys, just so you're aware.
Yeah. What does Gary say that our average interest rate's been over like the last 10, 15 years? This new line.
6.
Yeah, 6%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and before that, it was up at 8%.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we're still way below the average interest rate line. So if we start looking at, around the May 5th, 6th, I don't know when weekends fall, but about 2 days after each one of these dates, we could say anywhere from about 1/10 of a point to 1/4 percentage of interest rates going up. So we keep on saying, watch out for September. Watch out for September. Why? This one right here. So if we start looking at, well, we have anywhere from 1/10 to 1/4 percentage point right here. By the time we get to September, we could be sitting between 6.5 interest, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when we're already going into a fall market, we could be heading into nothing just shuts down. I mean, we try to shut it down in COVID and we just kept going stronger than ever.
Unless you choose to shut it down.
Right.
Nothing shuts down.
Right.
Right.
But Gary also says we're always working 3 months away from where we're at now.
That's right.
Right. So if we look at where we're at now, we're in July. So if you're not doing the things you should be doing, that's good news. You still have time.
Mm-hmm.
So if we start working towards our fall market, knowing that we could be at 6.5%, and getting just people ready for that, filling our pipeline, you can have just a normal fall and you won't feel much of it come the third quarter, right?
And so Brett always says that I actually like this, make me smarter. So there's 2 consultations that come into my head with sellers and buyers, because if you're looking 3 months ahead, which we should be doing, you've got your buyer that's on the fence.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to, knowing this information, what would you get them to do to move? And then if you have a seller that's on the fence, because to me, these are very similar. A lot of times they're not similar conversations. These are very similar conversations. So the seller even being aware of what's happening in the buyer market needs to be important. So what would you say, what would you advise our agents to say right now to get people to understand, one, the sky's not falling. However, what is the opportunity to go ahead and list now, buy now?
Yeah. If a buyer asks me or tells me, yeah, I want to wait until, because I had somebody, one of our agents tell me this, I went, oh yeah, how much money are they wanting to give away? Right? They tell you they want to wait until the end of the summer, see what things are doing. All right, how much money exactly do you want to just throw away? Because these are the numbers right here.
Okay.
If you look at 2008 at an average sales price of $225, you're at $1,400, a little over. In 2021 at $350 at 2.75, you're at the exact same price. Now this year, sitting at 5%, you've gone up $450. We go up another percentage point. Now you're just giving away another $100. I haven't done the math on that. All right, so I'm sorry. But so how much money every month are you looking to just give away?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have that type of money, I'd love to just like get into some sort of Ponzi scheme with you and just have you give me that money. So no, don't do that. But that's the biggest thing. Look, not everybody has that luxury of being able to do it now, but if all you're doing is just waiting and seeing, I can help you with that.
Yeah.
Like
wait and see has never really been a great strategy.
No.
Yeah.
Because if you're still telling me like you have to move, then wait and see just means you're just going to cost yourself another $150 a month.
Yeah.
For nothing. Like,
So,
you don't get more, you get less.
Flip the script to a seller. I want to, wait and see, which we're not hearing that. But if they're having reservations, what would you say to get them to list now?
Yeah. So I did have a seller ask me, hey, should I go ahead and list in April or get in like in June or July, right? A lot of sellers just feel like that June, July, that's
going to
the
be
top
the
of the
prime.
market. Yeah. What I'm telling them right now is, all right, interest rate is affecting affordability. So if we have interest rate hikes coming in May and another in June, another in July, that's just going to affect affordability. It doesn't necessarily mean that your price is going down, but in this market where we have multiple offers coming in, you are hurting your best price by somebody guaranteeing how much money they're going to give you. And I don't know that we're necessarily going to go like see these huge, I think we're going to hit little waves, but not enough for me to say, oh man, you're costing yourself tens of thousands, but you are in the multiple offer arena.
I think it affects multiple offers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not that they won't get any. I was talking to a couple of agents, 40, 20, 30, 40 offers still going on houses. I do think that slows down as interest rates go up. So that's a positive for buyers, less competition. And 2, it could cost your seller money. So, and if we can get sellers to list now, it'll help our supply and demand. So like I see, if we just do what we're supposed to do, we can affect change in our market.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
But it starts with these conversations where we can instill confidence in a seller, instill confidence in a buyer. And at the end of the day, like, we don't know what the future holds.
No, my crystal ball broke about 3 years ago. So yeah, it's busted.
Yeah. Yeah. Nobody saw COVID happening. Nobody saw supply chain.
Yeah.
So,
and if you did go by, man, what's going to happen to me tomorrow? Like, I need to know.
So if we start affecting affordability and we start having homes coming in on the market, and I see that we're going to start seeing a little bit of dip in the amount of homes being bought because of that debt to income ratio. That brings up some really good points of, especially the new agent that has only been in it the last 2 years. There is such a thing as a price reduction, right?
Wait, what?
Yeah.
What are those? Yeah.
So, So this Redfin article was really interesting in the fact that they made note to say it's not happening a lot, but the fact is that it is actually starting to happen.
Right.
So we're starting to see people reduce the price on their homes because we're starting to see that ceiling. And so if agents aren't strong in a market analysis, or if they're looking at the competition and just saying, man, there's not a lot of competition still out there, let's price you out at 450 at the top of where everything is. Well, if we're starting to shrink in and these interest rates are happening, you're now pricing them at the top of the market. And I think by the end of the summer, we can start having what's called chasing the market, right? Where you start out high and then all of a sudden people start dropping their price and you're standing up there alone and not getting any showings. You have a frustrated seller and now you're reducing, and there will come a point where there's multiple reductions and you're always reducing to catch up to the competition.
Yeah. You priced yourself out of the market. Yeah. That is I'm seeing it happening right now.
Yeah. One of the biggest price points, this is just a freebie. I don't have my stats up, but I keep track of all the showings going on in the area. There's one price point that over the last month and a half, I'm starting to see some bend, and it's the 400 to 500, where we're starting to see showings slow down. And if you have something in the 400 to 500, it doesn't mean that
is it a true 400 to 500.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be, in this case, you can have a stellar home and it gets multiple offers. But for overall 400 to 500, it's starting to show some bend, showings going down, and days on the market going up.
All I hear is opportunity.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I wanted to actually, let's look at this before we look at these quarterly numbers. Early signs the housing market's cooling down. This is actually a really good thing
Mhm.
for what we've said a couple of times now, fundamentals.
Mhm.
What is our problem in this market? I remember getting in 2008, our problem was we had sellers coming to the table with $100,000, $50,000. Like it was really bad. Um, and so you had so many homes to show that houses were sitting, and now we're kind of on this flip side of it where we don't have anything out there and buyers are trying to get in.
Right.
Yeah. So
The extremes, both
yeah,
extremes.
yeah, two totally different extremes, but just because it's a good market doesn't mean it's a good thing for realtors.
That's right.
Right. So with the housing market cooling down, what would you say that you see kind of happening in the market?
I think it depends on the price point.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's definitely, and I think certain price points, I don't know if the multiple offer situation will ever go away,
Yeah.
especially like the low twos, if you're able to find it up to like the mid threes, right? What I see is just even looking at data is people pricing themselves out of the market. That's what I see happening more of, to where you can look at a house, you look at the price per square foot, there is no data that supports that.
Yeah.
Like it, and then you're working to advise your client what to do. So that's what I see happening that's causing a little bit of a cool down. Obviously, interest rates. Also, what I see happening just recently with just some conversations I've had is, yes, investors are still hot and heavy, but there are some people that actually don't want to sell to an investor. So like there is opportunities out there. So if you hear you're in a multiple offer situation with an investor, that doesn't necessarily mean the investor wins. What I've also seen is more FHAs are getting accepted.
Yeah.
VAs are getting accepted. They're beating cash offers. So the sky is not falling. I think we just need to educate ourselves and be aware of what's happening. So a lot of things that I see right now that's actually pointing in what I see are the right direction. So,
you know what I'm really excited about on the housing market cooling off are open houses.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, please say open houses.
No.
We can actually have them.
Yeah.
You still can have them if it's under contract, but whatever.
Yeah. Absolutely. And our group has a phenomenal rate of closings over the past few years on open houses, but we don't have any. And I just keep on thinking, what could we do right now if we had all these open houses? And I want to tell you, if you're sitting there going, open houses, they don't work, you're not doing them enough, right? Yeah. You're one and done, two and done. You didn't do enough.
Let's circle back a little bit. What's the purpose of an open house? True purpose.
Well,
there's multiple, but like, what's a big purpose of an open house?
My true purpose is to generate buyers.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. Yeah.
That's right. So that is the purpose of an open house. The likelihood of the open house selling, or the house selling at the open house, very little, very slim. It happens, right? It happens. But the goal of an open house is to prospect business, period.
Yeah.
So that's what it's for.
Yeah. You don't have a storefront. So what you're doing is basically you're opening up a storefront with one product inside. And you're telling everybody, hey, come in here and buy this one thing I have, right?
Yeah, it's only drive-through window of real estate.
Right.
That's it.
And so you're exactly right. The likelihood is very, very slim. I mean, if I don't
1%.
feel like a Snickers when I go in and I want a Milky Way, I want to go somewhere else, right?
But you can tell them you can go Milky, and you can even take them to go buy the Milky Way.
Yep.
Like there's QT and then there's Circle K or whatever. Like we'll go with them. So anyways, and yeah, if the open house isn't working, it's because you're not working the open house.
Yeah. Sitting in there, just as somebody comes in and says, hey, let me know if you have any questions. They're not going to ask you a single dang question.
No.
Chase them down.
No. Yep.
No, I'm not going to say that live. All right. So let's look at some Q1 numbers real quick. Because I think to understand where we're going, we need to understand what just happened in a big box, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this page shows us new listings from 2018 to 2022, where we're at right now. I want you to kind of look at this progression here with me. Where in 2019, pre-COVID, you're at 165 on the new listings, 128 in Rockwall. This is Rockwall County right here, 165 to 139, 208 to 190. So I did the little percentage change here, or this is year over year. but we're starting to catch up to 2019 here.
Pre-pandemic.
Yeah, pre-pandemic, and that's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Here's my numbers. So we went from 22 to 16 to about 9%. We're starting to really catch up in a fast way here.
Fast. 22 to 9 in a quarter that's fast.
Yeah. And so if you're looking at where there's opportunity, you look in Dallas County and Collin County.
It's more level.
It's going down, but it started late and it's getting down slower. So if you're looking as where should I start my lead gen right now, trying to prospect sellers, I tell you Dallas County and Collin County.
Right.
Right. I want to shift over to sales. This is ultimately what we need to see is like go after inventory, sell your inventory. What does that mean for your bottom dollar? We're outperforming last year. Outside of now March, we hit interest rates. There was the effect.
Right.
10%. Right. Real similar down here in Dallas. Not as bad in Collin. All right. So maybe Collin County is the true place to prospect that seller. All right. But when we start looking at 2022, 2019, let's just look at 2019. We are still way above those levels in 2019. Right. I mean, we were 87% in January and we're still 17% ahead as of March.
Well, and I think, could be wrong, inventory, it's moving quicker. So I think if there was we're up. So like we've actually, yes, it's low inventories because nothing's staying on long enough for it to like really affect the numbers.
Yeah.
So those are just going to continue to rise as inventory stays on a little bit longer.
Yeah, because of what I said earlier.
So it's not an inventory problem, it's inventory movement.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
As sellers see more inventory on the market, well, I think it does a couple things. It instills more confidence that they can find something if they were to sell their house. Right. And then on the other side of it, that my inventory is going up, I better get my butt out there on the market before there's too much out there and I can't make as much money.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
Anyways, that's an interesting stat to me to look, or a fact to see. So. And
then pay attention to this. This really blew my mind. If we look in the pandemic, this is new listings coming on versus the sales, right? So we brought inventory on and how fast did we sell it? Pandemic, we were constantly selling almost 90%, sometimes 100% of the inventory as it came on each month. This year, right? Or I mean, this quarter. But we get back to pre-pandemic and we're in this 45 to 60 range, right? But so look at what we're doing here. January, we're at 102 in Rockwall, 76, and we're down to 69%. That number's coming down to reality. And so we are going to start having more and more inventory. Yeah. And so you got to pay attention to what's out there so you're not pricing yourself over. And it's happening. Dallas is slower and Collin County's coming down. So your days on the market, I wrote it down here, your days on the market, multiple offers, and your list price live in this sheet right here.
That's right. So we're almost out of time. So what would be, go back to the one thing, like what should our one action item be this week? Like if there's one thing that you accomplished and only accomplished this week, what would you advise?
Call everybody in your pipeline that's sitting on the fence. Plain and simple, just get them off the fence. Because the number one thing I hear from people is, I don't want to be salesy. This isn't salesy. This is being helpful. If you don't see this as helpful, then you're missing it.
And I would go back to say, if you're not having this conversation with your data bank, someone else is.
Oh, yeah.
So that's just reality. So you can decide, is it going to be you that's having that conversation? Or are you going to allow Jim Duquette to go and talk to your people? I mean, and I'm just saying that's the truth. Like we can't put our head in the sand and think that, oh, well, they're my client, they're not talking to anybody else. That's not true. So you've got to stay top of mind. And this is great information. Like this is great for buyers right now, and it's great for sellers. So I would be excited
Yeah.
to leave after they listening to this conversation, fired up to go call my database and talk about the opportunity in front of them.
Yeah. For the summertime, you guys should be ecstatic about this. It's going to mess with some buyers on their debt to income, but overall, these are great numbers. Like
Absolutely.
and when we were talking about this earlier, and we can leave with this. If you look at your, how can we get our monthly price down, right? Our monthly payment. We are walking out of a era of a ton of equity.
Mhm.
The average person is selling with, I think it was like $185,000, $175,000
Yeah,
of
think about
equity.
that.
Yeah. It takes about $75,000 to get it from that 1,800 or almost that 1,900 down to that 14. You're still walking away with 100,000 nearly.
Yeah.
If you did that. That's how we're making through this market. That's why the sky's not falling, because there's still buying power out there.
Right. And houses will still appreciate, just not at the level that they are.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just not sustainable. So if the conversation of a seller like, oh, well, I'm going to go out and buy myself out of my next house and not have equity is not true. So it's not true. So it's just up to you to educate them otherwise.
Yep.
So
perfect.
Cool.
We did it.
Yeah. All right. We'll see y'all next week. Go kill it.